The heart surgeon's 6-year secret, the CEO, the doctor, and the hereditary flaw. The heart-stopping reunion. Attention. We're about to reveal a secret that could collapse 2 lives. But before you dive into this high-tension story, give us a like if you believe the truth always finds a way out. Subscribe to the channel right now and tell us which corner of the world you're listening from. Dr. Sophia Nolan never imagined an ordinary shift would change everything. When the door to the conference room opened and she saw the face of the new chief of service, the floor seemed to disappear beneath her. It was him, Dr. Ethan Wells, the man who had vanished from her life 7 years ago, unaware that he left behind far more than broken promises. Now, they would have to work side by side at the prestigious Boston General Hospital. But what Ethan still didn't know was that every night, Sophia returned home and embraced the biggest secret a heart can hold. 1. The chief's arrival and the reckoning the morning started like all the others. Dr. Sophia Nolan parked her car in the Boston General basement, smoothed her white coat, and pulled her hair into a tight bun, an automatic gesture preparing her for battle. Here, she was respected. A cardiothoracic surgeon, steady hands, lightning-fast decisions. But today, something felt different. She entered the conference room to find the team assembled. Familiar faces, casual conversations, the smell of fresh coffee. Everything was normal until the hospital director rose and clapped for attention. Colleagues, I want to introduce the new chief of our cardiothoracic surgery team. He comes with a brilliant career, international experience, and will lead our most complex procedures. Please welcome Dr. Ethan Wells. The name echoed like silent thunder. Sophia felt her heart race before she even saw him. It couldn't be. Not him. Not now. And then the door opened. Ethan strode in with that confident gait she knew so well. The same subtle smile, the same intense gaze. He greeted the team with courteous nods, but when his eyes met Sophia's, he paused. For a fraction of a second, the entire world seemed to freeze. His eyes widened slightly. Surprise, recognition, maybe even a flash of something she couldn't decipher. But Ethan recovered quickly, too professional to let any emotion spill over. "It's a pleasure to meet you all," Ethan said, his voice firm and deep. "I'm excited to work with such a competent team." He didn't address her directly, but Sophia knew. He knew who she was. The meeting continued, but Sophia heard nothing more. Her mind was trapped in another time. 7 years ago, a night that began with laughter and whispered promises, and ended with a silence that was never broken. She had tried to find him, called, messaged, went to his apartment. But Ethan had vanished, traveling abroad without warning, without farewell. And when Sophia discovered she was pregnant, it was too late. He was gone, and now he was back, as her boss, as if nothing had happened. When the meeting ended, Sophia was the first to rise. She needed out. She needed air. But before she could reach the door, she heard his voice behind her. "Dr. Nolan." She stopped, closed her eyes for a second, then turned slowly. Ethan was a few feet away, hands in his coat pockets, his expression carefully neutral. But there was something in his eyes, curiosity, tension, and perhaps regret. "We need to talk," he said quietly, almost a plea. Sophia lifted her chin, putting on the mask of cool professionalism she had learned to wear so well. "There is nothing to discuss, Dr. Wells. We are colleagues now, that is all." "Sophia, it's Dr. Nolan," she interrupted, her voice firm as steel. "And if you'll excuse me, I have a surgery in 20 minutes. She turned her back and left the room before he could say anything else, before he could see the tears she was holding back with all her strength. Hours later, Sophia was in the OR, focused on a bypass surgery. Her hands were steady, her movements precise. Here, she was in control. Here, nothing from the past mattered. But when she finished and exited the room, she found Ethan leaning against the hallway wall, waiting. "What do you want?" Sophia asked, too tired to maintain her coolness. "We have a complex surgery tomorrow, a heart transplant. I will need you as my second," he said, cutting straight to the point. Sophia crossed her arms. "You can choose any other surgeon on the team. I choose you." Their eyes met again, and this time, Sophia saw something that disarmed her. Vulnerability. "It's not a request, Sophia. It's a professional necessity. You are the best, and the patient deserves the best." She pressed her lips together. She wanted to refuse, to scream, but he was right, and she would never put her pride above a patient's life. "Fine," she said, her voice low. "But this changes nothing between us." "I know." Sophia walked past him without looking back. But as she moved down the corridor, she felt the weight of Ethan's gaze on her back, and something deep inside her, something she had buried, began to stir again. 2. The heart-squeezing secret. When she arrived home that night, the exhaustion hit hard. But when she opened the door, everything changed. "Mommy!" an excited little voice shouted. Leo ran towards her with open arms. 6 years old, messy dark hair, bright eyes, full of life. The purest smile she had ever seen. Sophia knelt and hugged him tightly, feeling the tears finally escape. "How is my love?" she whispered, kissing the top of his head. "Are you okay, Mommy?" Leo asked, pulling back a little to look at her, with that strange wisdom children sometimes possess. "I am now," Sophia smiled, wiping her tears. Leo smiled back and took her hand. "Come on, I made a drawing for you." As Leo led her to the living room, Sophia looked at her son's face and saw, as she always saw, Ethan's features, the shape of his eyes, the way he smiled, the presence that filled the room. And for the first time in years, she wondered, what if he knew? But then she pushed the thought away. Not now. Maybe never. That night, as she tucked Leo into bed, the boy asked the question he always did. "Mommy, when will I meet my dad?" Sophia felt her heart clench. "Someday, my love, someday. Does he know I exist?" She swallowed hard. "He couldn't stay, Leo, but that doesn't mean you aren't loved." Leo nodded, but there was a sadness in his eyes that shattered Sophia. She kissed her son's forehead and slipped out of the room. And there, alone in the dark hallway, Sophia leaned against the wall and let the tears fall. Because tomorrow, she would have to stand shoulder to shoulder with Ethan. Professional again. Distant. As if her heart wasn't screaming the truth no one could hear. You have a son, and he has your eyes. 3. The surgery and the age reveal. The alarm clock rang at 5 a.m., but Sophia was already awake. She had spent the night tossing and turning, thoughts circling endlessly. Ethan, the surgery, his gaze, the unspoken words, and Leo. Always Leo at the center of it all. She rose silently, took a cold shower, trying to wake up not just her body, but the courage she would need to face the day. The hospital was quiet when Sophia arrived. The surgery was scheduled for 7, but she was always early. Today, the preparation was different. Today, she needed to emotionally armor herself. When she entered the prep room, she saw Ethan already there, reviewing the patient's x-rays. He looked up and saw her. For a second, relief, perhaps anticipation crossed his face. "Good morning," he said, his voice controlled. Professional. "Good morning," Sophia replied, maintaining a safe distance. "The patient is a 52-year-old male, end-stage dilated cardiomyopathy," Ethan began to explain, pointing to the images. "The donor heart arrived 2 hours ago. We have a 6-hour window for the transplant." They worked in sync in the operating room, their movements precise, their communication almost telepathic. When Ethan exposed the diseased heart, Sophia felt a tightness in her own chest, That tired, failing organ seemed to carry a different symbolic weight today. The hours simultaneously flew and dragged, suture after suture, connection after connection, and then the moment of truth. The heart began to beat, strong, rhythmic, alive. "Good job, Dr. Nolan," Ethan said, and there was something in his voice that went beyond professional praise. "You too, Dr. Wells," she replied, keeping her guard up. After the surgery, Sophia went straight to the break room. She needed a moment alone. But when she opened the door, she found Ethan sitting there, his head in his hands. "It was a good surgery." Sophia broke the silence, keeping her voice neutral. "It was," he conceded. "You are extraordinary, Sophia. You always were." She felt her heart race at the compliment, but didn't show it. "Thank you." Ethan stood up. "Sophia, I need to tell you something." "Gabriel, no," she interrupted, shaking her head. "Don't do this." "But I have to." 7 years, Sophia. 7 years. And I never stopped. "Stopped what?" she interrupted, her voice beginning to tremble. "Thinking about me. Remembering me. Because you had 7 years to come back, Ethan. 7 years. And you chose not to." "You're right," Ethan finally said, his voice grave. "I was a coward. I ran. And not a day goes by that I don't regret it." "Regret doesn't change the past, Ethan." "I know," he said, genuine pain in his eyes. "But maybe we can build something new. As colleagues. As friends." Sophia took a step back. "I have to go. I have to pick up my son from school." It was only when the word son left her mouth that she realized the error. Ethan's eyes widened slightly in surprise. You have a son?" Sophia felt the panic rising, but kept her expression controlled. "Yes, I do. How old is he?" The question hung in the air like a bomb about to detonate. Sophia could lie, but something inside her was tired of lying. 6 years old, she said, and watched Ethan's expression change. He opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. His eyes flickered rapidly, doing the math. "Ethan, I have to go," she said quickly, grabbing her bag and practically running for the door. "Sophia, wait!" But she didn't. She couldn't. If she stayed 1 minute longer in that room, everything would collapse. Interactive question. What would you do in Sophia's place? Continue hiding the truth for Leo's emotional safety, or confess and risk the chaos? Tell us in the comments. 4. The collapse and the diagnosis. When Sophia arrived at Leo's school, she found him sitting quietly on the playground, pale. Her mother's heart immediately sounded the alarm. "Leo." She knelt in front of him. "What happened, my love?" "I'm tired, Mommy," he said in a weak voice that was not normal. Sophia placed her hand on his forehead. "No fever." "Tired how, sweetie? Did you play too much?" "No, just my chest feels heavy." Sophia's blood ran cold. She was a doctor. She knew what that could mean. And it was her son. "Let's go home, okay? And tomorrow, we'll go to the doctor." Holding her son in her arms, Sophia felt the world beginning to unravel. Because some things, not even the best surgeon in the world could fix alone. The night was long, exhaustion, heavy chest. For any parent, it would be worrying. For a mother who was also a cardiologist, it was terrifying. The next day, Sophia sat in the waiting room of Dr. Marcus Stone, a pediatric cardiologist she trusted implicitly. The initial physical exam was careful. Dr. Stone listened to Leo's heart for a long time. The echocardiogram began, and as the images appeared, the cardiac chambers, the valves, the blood flow. Sophia's stomach churned. Dr. Stone said nothing during the exam, too professional to show concern in front of the child. But Sophia saw it. She saw the slight irregularity. As soon as the door closed behind Leo, Dr. Stone's professional smile vanished. "I saw it," Sophia interjected, her voice trembling. "I saw it, Marcus. There's a structural alteration, slight, but it's there." He sighed. "The mitral valve is not closing completely, and there is a subtle thickening of the interventricular septum." Sophia put her hands to her face. The technical words echoed in her mind. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. HCM. Genetics. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy has a strong hereditary component. Do you have a family history? Dr. Stone asked. Not on my side, Sophia said, and then fell silent. She had never thought about it. She had never asked Ethan about his family's medical history. And the father? Sophia remained silent for a long moment. I don't know. He's not present. Sophia, we need a cardiac MRI and some genetic testing, Dr. Stone said softly. And I'll be honest, depending on what we find, Leo might need intensive monitoring. Maybe medication. Maybe something more. The unspoken word floated between them like a ghost. Surgery. 5. The truth explodes. The following days were an emotional roller coaster. 2 weeks of waiting for the MRI felt like an eternity. Meanwhile, life at the hospital continued, which meant living alongside Ethan. He had tried to approach her several times, but Sophia always found an excuse to escape. One afternoon, he found her in the hospital library, reviewing articles on pediatric cardiomyopathy. Looking for something specific? His voice startled her. Sophia turned her head sharply, meeting Ethan's worried expression. It's for a case, she lied, closing the tablet. I know you, Sophia, Ethan said softly. You don't read articles on pediatric cardiology unless it's personal. You knew me, she corrected bitterly. Past tense. Your son. Is he okay? The question was like a punch to the gut. Why do you care? She asked, her eyes burning. Because I care about you, he said simply, without preamble. 7 years, Ethan. 7 years without a word, and now you care. I always cared, he retorted, his voice thick with genuine pain. I was just too much of a coward to come back. And what changed now? Seeing you again. Realizing that what I felt never went away. Before Sophia could answer, her cell phone rang. It was Leo's school. She answered immediately, her heart pounding. Ms. Nolan, I'm the school secretary. Leo fainted during gym class. The world stopped. He fainted? He's awake, but very pale. We thought it best to call you. I'm on my way. Sophia hung up, grabbing her bag frantically. What happened? Ethan stood up. Immediately alert. My son. He collapsed at school. I have to go. I'm going with you. Sophia, you're panicking. You can't drive like this. Let me take you. She wanted to refuse, but he was right. Her hands were shaking too badly. Fine, she conceded, her voice cracking. He drove fast, but safely. When they arrived at the school, Sophia ran to the nurse's office and found Leo on a small cot, pale, eyes closed. Leo, she cried, holding his face in her hands. What happened, my love? Mommy, I was running and everything went dark. It's okay, my love. Mommy is here. It's okay. Then, Leo looked past her shoulder and saw Ethan standing in the doorway. Who is he, Mommy? Sophia turned and found Ethan's eyes locked on Leo, his expression completely altered. Surprise, shock, recognition. Because in that moment, seeing the child up close for the first time, it couldn't be denied. The same eyes, the same face shape, the same way he frowned. Leo was Ethan's perfect copy, and from the devastated look on Ethan's face, Sophia knew. He knew. 6. The definitive confession and the alliance. The silence in the school nurse's office was deafening. Ethan was frozen in the doorway, his eyes fixed on Leo. He's a colleague of Mommy's, honey. Sophia quickly forced a smile. He brought me here fast. Hi, Leo said shyly. Hi, Leo. Ethan replied, his voice hoarse. How do you feel? Better, just dizzy. We need to go to the hospital. Now, Sophia said firmly, taking control. She lifted Leo, who felt too light, and followed Ethan to the car. In the hospital emergency room, the team moved quickly. Leo was stabilized. The EKG showed arrhythmia and non-sustained ventricular tachycardia. Clear signs of overload. We need an urgent echo, Sophia said, her professional voice concealing a mother's panic. I'm ordering it now, Ethan said, grabbing a tablet. When the ultrasound machine arrived, Sophia wanted to do it herself. But Ethan intervened gently. "You can't ultrasound your own son, Sophia. You know that. Let me do it. Please, trust me." She saw the utter sincerity in his eyes. He was there as a doctor, as someone who, in a complicated way, cared. She stepped back, relenting. Ethan took the transducer. "Hi, champion," he said, smiling at Leo. "I'm Dr. Wells. I'm going to give you an exam, but it won't hurt, okay?" As the images appeared on the screen, the heart beating, the valves opening, Sophia felt the world collapse. The interventricular septum was clearly thickened. The mitral valve showed moderate regurgitation. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. There were no more doubts. Ethan saw it too. His expression darkened. When he finished, he wiped the gel from Leo's chest with careful, almost paternal movements. "You're brave," Ethan told Leo. "You earn a huge lollipop for this." Sophia gently pulled the sheet up to Leo's chin. "Sleep a little, my love. Mommy is here." Ethan gestured towards the door. They needed to talk. In a quiet corner, Ethan leaned against the wall, rubbing his face. "Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy," he said, his voice raw. "Moderate, but progressive." "I know," Sophia replied, hugging herself. "He'll need medication, rigorous monitoring, and, depending on the evolution, surgery." "Sophia, he's my son, isn't he?" The question hung in the air like a sentence. Sophia closed her eyes, tears slowly. "Really now?" "Yes," she whispered. "He is your son." Ethan staggered as if struck. He leaned heavily against the wall, his breath catching. 6 years, he said, more to himself. 6 years, and you didn't tell me. "I tried," Sophia exploded, all the rage and pain of 7 years spilling out. "I tried to find you, Ethan. I called, I messaged, I went to your apartment, but you had vanished. You traveled without a trace, without a word, without—" Her voice broke. Ethan stood there, shattered, trying to process the life-altering information. "I have a son," he repeated. "I have a son and he's sick." "He's not sick," Sophia said fiercely. "He has a condition, and I'm going to take care of him, as I always have." "Alone. You don't have to be alone anymore," Ethan said, taking a step toward her. "Now you want to be present. Now that you know—" "I always cared, Sophia, always, but not enough to come back." Ethan opened and closed his mouth. Then, for the first time, she saw tears in his eyes. "You're right," he said, his voice breaking. "I was a coward. I ran because I was afraid of what I felt for you. Afraid of commitment. Afraid to fail. Afraid to be like my father." Sophia blinked, surprised by the unexpected confession. "What?" "My father," Ethan repeated, his voice low. "He died of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy when I was 15. That's why I became a cardiologist. And that's why I ran from anything that felt permanent. Because I was afraid I would die young too, leave someone behind, make someone suffer the way I did." Sophia felt the ground drop out from under her. Everything made sense now. The genetics, Leo's condition, and the fear that had made Ethan disappear. "So it's hereditary," she whispered in horror. "His condition probably came from me," Ethan completed, guilt etched onto his face. "My son is sick because of me." "No," Sophia said firmly, stepping toward him. "It's not your fault. Genetics is not fault. It's just life." Ethan covered his face with his hands, his shoulders shaking. "I wasted 6 years of his life," he sobbed. 6 years I'll never get back." Something broke inside Sophia. All the anger, all the resentment were still there. But suddenly, they seemed less important than the shared pain. "He'll need surgery, won't he?" Ethan asked, lifting his face and looking at her directly. "Probably," Sophia admitted. "Then let me do it," he pleaded. "Let me fix what I broke. Let me be his doctor. Let me be his father." Sophia looked at the man she had loved, who had destroyed her, and who now stood before her, completely broken, and for the first time in 7 years, she allowed herself to consider the possibility. the possibility of never being alone again. 7. The surgery and the forging of a family. The hospital night was heavy. Ethan stayed in the room, pulling a chair up across from Sophia, his eyes fixed on Leo. "He looks like me," Ethan said, his voice low and full of awe. The face shape, the eyes, even the way he furrows his brow when he's confused. "I know," Sophia replied. "Every time I look at him, I see you." "I missed everything," Ethan confessed, tears in his eyes. "First steps, first words, everything." "He started walking at 10 months, Sophia shared softly. "Earlier than most. He was eager." "Does he still ask about me? About his father?" Sophia corrected. "He asks, 'Mommy, where is my dad? Why isn't he here?'" "What did you tell him?" "The truth," Sophia replied. "That his father couldn't be here. But that didn't mean he wasn't loved. That he had a mother who loved him enough for two." "You are incredible, Sophia," Ethan whispered. "He'll need surgery," Sophia said, returning to reality. "You said you're the best. I am the steadiest hands to save him," Ethan promised. "Let me do it. But you have to be in the room with me. That's non-negotiable," Sophia insisted. "Either I stay or you don't operate." Ethan agreed. "You stay." The following hours were spent planning. Ethan called the best specialists. Sophia was by his side, offering insights, being not just the worried mother, but the competent colleague. The surgery was scheduled for 2 days later, enough time to stabilize Leo. Give this video a like if you believe shared crisis is the true test of a relationship. The morning of the surgery dawned gray. At 5 a.m., Leo was wheeled away. He looked up at Ethan. "You'll fix my heart, right, Dad?" The word dad hit Ethan with a physical impact. He knelt by the bed. "I'm going to make your heart so strong, you can run and play all you want, I promise." They made a pinky promise. 20 minutes later, Sophia was scrubbed in. She stood in the observation area. Ethan stood at the table. For a moment, his hand trembled over the incision site. The father fought the surgeon. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began. Ethan worked with a precision that bordered on artistry. He resected part of the hypertrophied septum. He reconstructed the mitral valve, suture by suture. Sophia watched through a veil of contained tears. The critical moment, coming off bypass. The muscle was still. "Come on, champion," Ethan whispered, so low only Sophia could have heard it. "Beat for me." Seconds passed, eternal, and then a tremor, a strong contraction, and the heart began to beat. Strong, rhythmic, alive. "Sinus rhythm established," the anesthesiologist announced. Tears streamed down Sophia's face. Ethan looked up, his eyes shining. "He made it," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "Our boy made it." Sophia did something she hadn't planned. She stepped forward and hugged Ethan right there, in the middle of the operating room, still in their sterile gowns. He held her tight, crying with relief, gratitude, and love. "Thank you," Sophia whispered against his shoulder. "Thank you for saving our son." "Thank you for letting me," Ethan replied. "Thank you for giving me this chance." 8. The promise of forever. In the pediatric ICU, Leo slept, surrounded by monitors. Sophia was by his side. Ethan walked in, exhausted. "When this is all over," Ethan said, pulling up a chair, "we need to talk. About us. About the future." "I know. I don't just want to be the weekend father," Ethan continued. "I want to be present. Breakfasts, homework, bedtime stories, everything. I love you, Sophia. I always did. And now, seeing Leo, I can't imagine my life without both of you." "I love you too," Sophia admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "But it still hurts." "I won't disappear," Ethan promised. "I'll prove it to you, not with words, but with actions, every single day, until you trust me again." Suddenly, a faint sound came from the bed. "Mommy!" Leo was waking up. "Dad," he murmured, looking for Ethan. "I'm here, champion," Ethan said, rushing to his side, his heart bursting. "I'm right here." "Did you fix my heart?" "I did," Ethan confirmed. "You have a superhero heart now." "You won't leave?" Leo asked, looking from one to the other. "Never," Sophia promised. "Never," Ethan echoed. 9. The legacy of second chances. A week later, a healed Leo was moved to a regular room. One night, Ethan sat by the bedside holding an envelope. "It's a letter," he told Sophia. "I wrote it on the eve of the surgery, just in case something went wrong." The letter confessed his love, his regret, and his absolute devotion to Leo. It pleaded with Sophia not to let pain define her. When Sophia finished reading, she was openly weeping. She walked over to Ethan, and without a word, climbed onto his lap and held him. "I believe you," she whispered. "I'm still scared, but I believe you. I'm ready to try again." He kissed her, a tender, hesitant kiss that deepened into a promise. 3 weeks after the surgery, Leo was discharged. The day was sunny. Ethan arrived with a wheelchair decorated with balloons and a new family SUV with a car seat installed. As they arrived at the small deck behind Sophia's house, away from the noise of the welcoming party, Ethan pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. "It's not a proposal," he quickly clarified, opening the box to reveal a delicate ring with 3 intertwined stones. One for him, one for Sophia, one for Leo. "It's a promise ring, a promise that I will be here every day, in joy and sorrow. A promise that I will spend the rest of my life proving I deserve both of you." Sophia, crying tears of pure joy, accepted. Weeks turned into months. Leo recovered completely. Ethan officially moved in. Family dinners became routine. 6 months after the surgery, sitting on that same deck, Leo asked, "When I grow up and have my own kids, do you think I'll be a good dad?" "You'll be an incredible father," Ethan said with conviction, "because you have the most generous heart I know. And you'll have the best example," Sophia added, "because you learned young that love is stronger than anything." They were exactly what they always should have been. A family, imperfect, mended, built on second chances, but most of all, real and full of love. Some stories don't begin with happy endings. They begin with broken hearts, with painful absences, with broken promises. But it is precisely into those cracks that the light can enter. Sophia and Ethan discovered that true love is not the one that never fails, but the one that gets up after the fall, that chooses to rebuild, that finds strength in forgiveness. And Leo, the little heart that bound them, taught them both the most important lesson. That family isn't about perfection, but about presence. Choosing to stay, even when it's hard. Always loving. If this story touched your heart, leave your like now. Subscribe to the channel for more stories about love, new beginnings, and transformation. Tell us in the comments, have you ever needed to give someone a second chance, or a second chance to yourself? 10. The test of routine. Warming optimistic music. Welcome back, dear listeners. Little Leo's heart is healed, and Sophia has accepted Ethan's promise ring. But rebuilding a life, and the trust shattered by 7 years of silence, is the hardest surgery of all. Hit the like button if you believe trust is the strongest foundation for any relationship. Subscribe to the channel and tell us, what daily action do you think Ethan needs to perform to completely earn Sophia's forgiveness? The weeks turned into months, and the initial euphoria of Leo's recovery and Ethan's return settled into the complex reality of cohabitation. Ethan officially moved into Sophia's house, converting the guest room into his home office. The change was fast, but the emotional integration was slow. Sophia's biggest challenge wasn't forgiving the past, but trusting the future. Ethan was a man of his word. He was present. He reorganized his demanding schedule at Boston General Hospital to ensure he was home for dinner 4 nights a week. He taught Leo to ride his first real bike, spending hours patiently guiding him in the park, a role Sophia had always filled alone. However, Sophia kept her emotional guard up, unconsciously waiting for the other shoe to drop. She watched him constantly, checking his phone when he left the room, listening to the tone of his voice when work stress was high, afraid that the old, self-sabotaging Ethan would resurface. 11. The midnight crisis. The test arrived one Friday night. Ethan had a crucial, high-stakes surgery that dragged on until midnight. He returned home exhausted, dropping his bag heavily by the door. Sophia was waiting for him in the kitchen, reading. "Rough night?" she asked. Her voice deliberately flat. Ethan sighed, running a hand over his face. "Aortic dissection. We almost lost him. The pressure was insane." He walked toward the liquor cabinet in the dining room, a cabinet Sophia had kept stocked with wine for occasional guests, but that Ethan hadn't touched since moving in. He paused, his hand hovering over the door pull. Sophia watched, her heart thumping against her ribs. In that instant, she saw the 20-something Ethan. Stressed, self-medicating, running from the pressure. 7 years of healing were suspended in the air. "I just need a drink," Ethan muttered, his voice strained, not looking at her. "Something strong, just to turn off the noise." Sophia didn't move. She didn't shout or accuse. She simply said, her voice quiet and firm, "Leo is asleep, and I'm here. You can talk to me. Ethan, you don't have to disappear." Ethan froze. He slowly lowered his hand from the cabinet, turned, and looked at Sophia. The moment was agonizingly long. He walked to her, knelt in front of her, and buried his face in her lap, his body trembling. "I can't do it, Sophia," he whispered, his voice cracking. "The habit is still there. The urge is there. I'm so afraid of failing you both." Sophia gently ran her fingers through his hair, realizing that this was the honesty she had needed all along. "You didn't fail, Ethan. The fact that you stopped, that you came to me instead of the cabinet, that is the victory. That is the man I need you to be." That night, they didn't talk about the past. They talked about pressure, the fear of failure, and the need for new coping mechanisms. It wasn't a romantic breakthrough. It was a profound act of vulnerability and strategic partnership. Ethan had chosen commitment over escape. Leave a comment. If you were Ethan, what new healthy ritual would you use to de-stress after a high-pressure surgery? 12. The definitive veto. Their relationship progressed, built on this new foundation of radical honesty. The promise ring was a constant reminder of their commitment to the future. However, the shadow of Mrs. Victoria de la Cruz, Ethan's mother and the root of his old trauma, still lingered. Victoria, a powerful socialite, was delighted to have her son, and now her grandson, back, but insisted on managing their lives. She began throwing extravagant birthday parties for Leo without consulting Sophia, sending expensive gifts that undermined Sophia's simpler parenting choices, and making passive-aggressive comments about Sophia's hasty career choices. Sophia had tolerated it for Leo's sake, but when Victoria tried to arrange an interview at an exclusive international school for Leo without either parent's knowledge, Sophia drew a line. She confronted Ethan. "Your mother is trying to control Leo's future, just like she controlled yours, and she is driving a wedge between us. The reason you ran 7 years ago was fear of her influence. If you can't set a permanent boundary with her now, I can't trust that you won't crack under her pressure again." Ethan knew this was the final test. This wasn't about an old mistress or a misplaced check. This was about prioritizing his family's foundation over his family's legacy. Ethan went to see his mother. The confrontation was painful and decisive. He didn't shout. He calmly stated the facts. "Mother, my primary responsibility is to Sophia and Leo. If you continue to undermine Sophia's role as a mother or interfere with Leo's important life decisions, you will not have access to your grandson." Victoria was furious, playing the victim. You are choosing that woman over your own mother. I am choosing my family, mother, Ethan corrected, his voice firm. And I am choosing a future where I don't run away. This is my boundary, and it is non-negotiable. The ultimatum worked. Victoria, faced with the loss of her grandson, grudgingly backed down. Ethan had finally conquered the source of his generational fear, demonstrating to Sophia that his transformation was complete. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like. If you think Ethan handled that confrontation with his mother perfectly, share this video. 13. The surprise consultation. 6 months later, Sophia and Ethan's professional lives seamlessly merged with their personal one. They worked together on complex cases, their surgical partnership becoming legendary, a rare example of a perfect union in the operating room. One afternoon, Ethan called Sophia into his chief's office, not for a case review, but for a private consultation. Sophia, he said, closing the door, I need your opinion on a very sensitive matter. A colleague, an old friend, is facing a severe medical crisis. I told him you were the only person I trust. He slid a complex chart across the desk. It wasn't a standard patient file. The name on the chart was blacked out, but the medical history was devastating. Severe, end-stage hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, coupled with a rare complication. Sophia focused, her surgical instincts kicking in. She spent 20 minutes meticulously analyzing the data, asking sharp clinical questions. The surgical risk is immense, she concluded. But with an aggressive septal myectomy and valve replacement, there's a 70% chance of survival. Who is this patient, Ethan? They need the best team, and I mean, you and me. Ethan leaned back in his chair, his eyes filled with emotion. I agree. You're the only one I trust to lead this with me. He paused, then slowly revealed the name on the chart. Sophia Nolan. Sophia froze. What is this? This is my information from 7 years ago, right after Leo's birth. Did you save those old files? I saved everything, Ethan admitted. But that's not the point. Read the dates. The dates were current. The data was from her recent annual physical, ordered by Ethan's assistant a week prior, under the guise of an administrative addendum. When I ran 7 years ago, I promised myself I would dedicate my life to preventing the pain my father caused, Ethan said, his voice trembling. When Leo got sick, I knew the gene was active, but I had to know about you. The stress of Leo's surgery and my own genetics. I had to make sure you weren't carrying any silent damage. He pulled out the final lab report. The good news, your heart is structurally perfect. The bad news, your stress hormones are critically high. You need to stop carrying the weight of the past. Sophia felt tears well up. He hadn't just saved Leo. He had been meticulously watching over and protecting her for months, using his medical expertise as an act of devotion. How do you feel about Ethan using Sophia's medical information this way? Was it a necessary act of love or a breach of privacy? Join the conversation in the comments. 14. The Eternal Promise. That night, Ethan took Sophia back to the hospital. Not to the OR, but to the rooftop of the cardiac wing, the highest point in the city, where they often went for moments of quiet reflection after successful surgeries. The Boston skyline twinkled below them. This is where I used to come after you left, Ethan confessed, looking at the city lights. I'd stand here, look at the lights, and force myself to admit I failed. It's also where I stood the night after Leo's surgery, and I made a final promise. He turned to her, removing the promise ring from her finger. This was a good pact, Sophia. It got us through the war, but the war is over. Now, we build the peace. Ethan knelt, not with a simple gesture, but with the seriousness of a man making the most important commitment of his life. He pulled out a new, simple ring, a platinum band engraved on the inside. Sophia Nolan, you taught me that the true meaning of a promise isn't that you won't fall, but that you will always, always show up. You are the strongest person I have ever known. You carried my son and saved my soul. Will you make me the proudest father and the most honest partner by being my wife? Will you be Mrs. Wells? Sophia's tears flowed freely. She saw no trace of the cowardly young doctor. She saw the man who risked his life for their son and prioritized her health above his own fear. "Yes," she whispered, her voice choked. "Yes, Ethan, I will marry you." He slid the new ring onto her finger. The inscription read, "Presente siempre." Always present. They returned home to tell Leo. The boy didn't seem surprised. "Finally," Leo declared, rolling his eyes. "You guys took forever. So, does this mean Dad is going to be my official soccer coach?" Ethan laughed, a genuine Holshri laugh. "Absolutely, champion, official coach, and Dad. Forever." 15. The Legacy of Presents. A year later, at their wedding, Sophia and Ethan asked Leo to be their ring bearer and best man. They exchanged vows, not about eternal perfection, but about unyielding presence and radical honesty. Their story became a quiet legend at Boston General Hospital. The two brilliant surgeons, whose professional synchronicity was only surpassed by their personal devotion, the final profound truth of their saga. Love is not found in the absence of flaws, but in the commitment to show up every day, especially when it is hard. And Ethan learned that his fear of mortality had ironically caused him to miss out on life. Sophia learned that forgiveness is not about erasing the scar, but accepting the healed man it revealed. And Leo, the little heart that healed them all, lived his childhood not with broken promises, but with two parents who were always present. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey of healing and hope. Final call to action. Subscribe to the channel to never miss a story of true human connection. Give this video a like if you believe the greatest promise is the promise of presence. Comment below. What was the deepest lesson Sophia taught Ethan about true commitment?